It's time to fire this thing up.
Welcome aboard ShipShape TV Essentials. This is your port of call for the most impactful upgrades, expert advice, and hands-on solutions from seasons past. This episode is proudly brought to you by SureHold, because anything worth doing is worth doing bright. From cleaning to protecting and perfecting, SureHold has everything you need to keep your boat shining. Don't just go boating, go showboating. Now, let's hoist anchor and set a course for another exciting episode of ShipShape TV Essentials.
Since boating's your game, I know that you'll agree. It's time to sit and watch ShipShape TV. So when you're out on the lake or on the sea, your boating will be trouble-free. ShipShape says you can do it. We'll show you how and even walk you through it. Learn about boats straight from the pros. The ShipShape TV show.
Thanks again for tuning in to ShipShape TV. I'm John Greviskis, and welcome to America's favorite boat improvement show. We've got a great program lined up for you today, and we're going to start off by looking at marine sanitation systems and plumbing techniques. We're going to show you what it takes to meet local and federal Coast Guard requirements. Then we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to show you what it takes to install a custom aluminum bow rail. But we're not going to stop there. How many times have you changed out a battery and when you thought you finished up the job, you look down and you've got a couple of wires left over? Well, today we're going to show you some techniques so that annoyance never happens again. Have you ever pulled up to a sandbar or beach and you wanted to anchor in between a couple of boats, but because of the current you thought it might be a little bit too challenging? Well, today we're going to show you step-by-step procedures of how to anchor that boat safely in between those crafts. And finally, Nick and I are going to take a look at one of the new manufactured boats that's out on the market. Get ready for a bunch more great ways to make your boat ship-shape.
ShipShape, America's favorite boat improvement show, is being brought to you in part by Code Marine Group, makers of Pettit, Woolsey, and Z-Spar, innovators of marine coatings since 1853. By Boaters World Discount Marine Centers, real low prices guaranteed. And by Pennzoil Marine, a new wave of protection formulated to protect your boat's engine and your engine warranty.
Have you ever changed out a battery on your boat and when you thought you finished up the project, you look down and you've got a bunch of loose wires still laying down in the bilge? Well, there's a reason for that. Maybe a previous boat owner or a mechanic who was looking to shortcut a project spaghetti wired that add-on right to the battery instead of the fuse block where it's supposed to go. So the next thing you know is you change out the battery, you take the positive leads off, you take the negative leads off, and you change it out, you look down, there's still a couple of wires left over. Oops, where do they go? Do you hook them up to the positive lead or do you hook them up to the negative lead? Well, let me show you something that I came up with to help avoid those perplexing looks you might get, as well as clean out some of that junk in your kitchen junk drawers. Now, have you ever seen these Gladlock thingamajigs? That's what I call them, and every kitchen junk drawer in America is stuffed full of these things. Grab a couple of them before you change out the battery. Hook up all your positive leads into a bundle, then all your negative leads in a bundle before you change out the battery. Once your leads are all hooked up, go ahead and spray them down with a good corrosion inhibitor. We've just taken a project that could have been ranked fairly difficult and turned it into a real simple one. Now, this might look like a tachometer, but through the magic of television, we've converted this into the ShipShape TV degree of difficulty meter. And how it works is, if there's a project that revs out under 2,500 RPMs, it's considered easy. Now, 2,500 to 5,000 RPMs would be considered a moderate one, and anything over 5,000 RPMs would be considered pretty challenging. This particular project revs out at 1,000 RPMs, meaning that any boat owner can do this project. Now, Nick, what do you have going on over there?
We need to address the septic system on our 1978 24-foot Stamas project boat. Let me show you the layout of this vessel. It's a 24-foot cabin cruiser that John and I have been restoring over the last several months. The cabin was designed with a forward V-berth that converts into a settee. It has a port side galley area and a starboard side stand-up head area. There are a lot of creature comforts packed into this big yet little boat. Now, space is going to be our major concern in today's selection of our septic system. Now back in 1978, it was not required to have either a holding tank or a treatment system on board. But the laws have changed, and today we need to address that.
Nick, what are our options here?
John, basically we have three. The first and the most simple, and then probably the most common, would be our porta potty. The porta potty has a separate built-in holding tank that holds the waste. You can pour some chemicals in, treat it. Downside is, at the end of the day or a long weekend, PU you've got to take and dump it into a land-based toilet. The next would be a toilet mounted in the boat that either has an electric or a manual pump that will transfer the waste through a Y valve into a holding tank or overboard. And that's some of the laws we're going to talk about later as to when you can do that. Finally, we have a treatment system. This particular system here takes chemicals and breaks down the waste, making it safe for the environment. And this one takes electricity and breaks down the salt water and internally treats the waste inside and dumps it back into the water safe.
That's great. Well, if it's good enough for the environment, it's good enough for Ship Shape TV. We decided to go with the Mini-Made marine head, and it's manufactured by Galley Made. And we're going to use this in conjunction with the Electrosan unit on our 1978 Stamas project boat. Now, the tools that we're going to need for today's project are a 1/2-inch drill bit, a 1.5-inch hole saw, drill bits, cordless drill with Phillips screw bit, a hacksaw, a regular screwdriver, a tape measure, wire cutters, and crimpers.
Well, another advantage to the Electrosan unit is we don't need to install the Y valve, and that makes the plumbing a little bit easier. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes.
Well, why don't we get started? Let's grab this stuff and head on over to the boat.
I'm able to mount this compact unit right here into the head. I want to give you a little tip when you're going to screw any lag bolt or self-tapping screw into fiberglass. First thing you want to do is take your pencil and mark where the head's going to go, or where your screws are going to be. I've got one hole here I'm going to reuse. I'm going to mark this one and this one. Once your holes are marked, take your drill bit and pilot drill the holes out. Next, take a countersink and countersink the area. Then screw your screws in. That's going to keep the fiberglass from chipping when you install the screw and give you a lot more strength. Well, that about does it.
Now that our head is mounted, we want to start the plumbing process. And basically what we need to do is we need to bring water from the bottom of the boat to the back of the toilet into the pump. And we do that through a valve called a seacock, and it's located right here underneath this step. Now, the manufacturer put a seacock in this boat for the original head. So what I need to do is take our hose and clamp it to that seacock. And whenever you're doing any sort of plumbing below the water line, you want to make sure that you double clamp all of your hoses.
Now that John has the water brought into the head, we need to get the water out of the head. That's where this vented loop is going to come into place. Now we're going to take this vented loop and hook it up to the discharge on the back of the head, and then I'm going to mount it above the water line. Now what this vented loop does is it breaks the siphon. When you're flushing the toilet, you create a siphon and the water's continually flowing through. The vented loop is going to introduce air to break that siphon, so when you're stopped flushing, we don't continue to bring water into the boat and possibly overflow the toilet and sink your boat. Coming out of the vented loop, we're going to go back to our Electrosan unit.
I've got just about all the hose laid out here, Nick. Now the hose that we're using in the discharge today is the smooth-lined white sanitation style hose. Now this will help prevent any odor problems in the line.
I've got the vented loop mounted, and normally from the vented loop you would find a Y valve. Most boats are equipped with a Y valve. What the Y valve does is it takes the waste and it directs the flow of the waste either overboard or into a holding tank. Now if you are operating your vessel within U.S. territorial waters, you have to have the Y valve securely tied off so it cannot be turned to dump overboard. You can only dump overboard if you are outside of U.S. territorial waters. Now with the Electrosan, like we're mounting, we're able to dump in coastal U.S. navigable waters with the exception of a no discharge zone.
Nick, can you give me a hand and lay out some of the rest of this hose and be in good shape?
Can you tell us what tool this is? Is it A, a jigsaw, B, a reciprocating saw, C, a scroll saw, or D, a seesaw? The answer is coming up right after these messages. What tool is this? If you guess C, a scroll saw, you're correct. Now a scroll saw does look a lot like a jigsaw, but the blade rotates, allowing you to cut a tight radius. Now if
The SureHold One Bucket System is your storage and detailing solution, featuring an ergonomic corrosion-free rope handle, a bucket caddy to organize your supplies and lift them out with ease, a bucket grate to elevate your wash tools out of dirty water with integrated soap measuring cups, a bucket base that won't let your bucket scratch, tip, or slip, and a bucket lid that keeps tools secure and doubles as a comfortable seat. The SureHold One Bucket System, the world's best rope handle 5-gallon bucket. SureHold, clean and simple.
you're in the market for a new boat, pay particular attention to this next segment as John and Nick test and review this vessel.
So it's not that bright right here. This is the 1998 Pursuit 2870, and it is the boat that John and I will test out this week. But before we do our in-water evaluation, I would like to share with you how this boat is constructed. Now, it starts off with a Pursuit exclusive blend of anti-blister isophthalic gel coats throughout. From there, the matte and skin coat are applied, and then multiple layers of hand-laid knitted biaxial comprise the rest of the laminates. The hull cap, deck, and sides are all cored with an end-grain balsa core, adding rigidity to this boat. Now, once the inner liner and cap assembly are set into place, they're bonded in to reduce vibration. This is a shoebox fit. It's sealed and fastened approximately every 3 to 4 inches. The rigging on this boat I found to be extremely sanitary. I really like the use of the marine sanitation hoses with all the plumbing on the boat. Even the typical problems of Yamaha wiring harnesses were dealt with in a neat and orderly fashion.
This boat was laid out to fish, and it has 2 big insulated fish boxes. The first one's below deck, and it comes with a master-rated drain, and it will accommodate multiple big fish up to 5 feet in length. We have a recirculating live well, 30-gallon. We also have a sink with a freshwater washdown. Now, down below, we have a 5-drawer inclined tackle center. Back here, we have the other fish box, along with another sink, raw water washdown, and a cutting board. Up front, we have 2 huge locking rod lockers. Back here, you can also store another 4 rods. And I did notice that the height of the gunnel was a little higher than normal, but I like this. When landing a big fish, I felt very secure.
Pursuit broke traditions a little bit with the design of this new 1998 2870. It has a 56-degree entry at the bow and a 22-degree dead rise in the stern. This gave the boat an exceptional offshore ride with soft landings. The 9/6 beam made up for the normal rock and roll effect inherent with the Deep V design. I only noticed a small amount of water at the stern when backing down. The built-in transom door did its job well and kept the water out of the self-bailing cockpit.
I like the fact that the boat comes with a bow pulpit. It also has a large anchor locker right next to it, and back here they've even put in a head. Now, Pursuit went through a lot of trouble in tooling this area. Comes with a standard marine head Y valve, 20-gallon holding tank, freshwater sink, and I did notice in a rough sea it was a little challenging getting down into this area. Nick, what did you think?
John, there are a lot of pluses to this boat. Unbelievable quality in construction and workmanship throughout the boat, especially in a production environment, some of the best I've ever seen. Good hull design, deep V, wide beam, fishability, and loads of storage.
Any minuses?
Not many. I could see maybe a need for a little more toe space in the forward port of the cockpit and a little better access into the head door, but in normal sea conditions, not a problem.
This particular model, Pursuit 2870, is powered by twin 1998 Yamaha 225 EFI engines. Burn was exceptional to cruise, which is 37 miles per hour. We got 1.7 miles per gallon, giving this boat at least a 350-mile range.
On a rating scale of 1 to 5 props, John and Nick rate this boat as a high 4-prop vessel, making the 1998 Pursuit 2870 a must-see for any serious boat buyer looking in this size range.
Well, here we are back on the project. We're in the process of installing a marine head and sanitation system on our 1978 Stamas project boat. So far, we've mounted the bowl and pump assembly. Then we plumbed raw water into the system and started the process of plumbing the discharge, beginning with the vented loop.
Now this is the discharge hose that we ran from across the top of the tank back here to the area in which our Electrosan will mount. We've only got 2 things left to do to finish up that mounting and installation process. The first is we need to bring the waste into the unit and then out of the unit. That'll complete the plumbing. Then we need to wire it.
I'm going to mount the Electrosan unit right here where I'm standing, but I first need to reduce this inlet from 1.5 inches down to a 3/4 inch. Then what I need to do is I need to plumb the system out. And I'm going to do that by putting a 90 on the top of the unit, and then I'm going to run this up to another vented loop. Again, above the water line, right back here on the transom, and then I'll follow the line out down into the bottom of the bilge where Nick and I installed an 1.5 inch seacock.
I wired the system by first mounting this control panel here on this bulkhead in the head area. I connected a 10-2 duplex wire to the wires on the galley-made macerator motor and ran it back along with the ribbon from the control panel to the Electrosan unit. Next, I followed the manufacturer's instructions and mounted a solenoid to control the flushing of the head and wired it accordingly. This assured me that whenever a flush occurs, that the Electrosan unit will also be engaged. Then I ran 6-gauge wire from our accessory battery to the back of the Electrosan unit, accommodating the 50-amp draw, and installed a breaker in line for protection.
Using the Ship-Shape TV degree of difficulty meter, this project revs up to a 6,000 RPM job, meaning that it's fairly involved and it will take some time and know-how. Stay with us. Up next, John and Nick will show us how easy it is to install a custom bow rail. And get ready to learn how to anchor your boat up in a crowd. Ship-Shape will be right back.
Don't neglect your non-skid fiberglass because it's too hard to wax. Waxing and protecting molded-in non-skid has never been faster and easier thanks to Sure-Hol's soft dual-action polisher brush head and pro polish. This winning combination will quickly seal and protect your textured fiberglass. Now every square inch of your boat can be detailed like a pro. Whether you are waxing non-skid, cleaning carpets, or scrubbing teak, Sure-Hol has the perfect polisher brush head for every task. 3 brushes, 1 amazing polisher. Another answer from Sure-Hol Industries' clean and simple solutions for detailing all your toys.
The following operational technique is being brought to you by Pennzoil Marine, a new wave of protection, formulated to protect your boat's engine and your engine warranty.
This week we're going to show you how to anchor up your vessel at a beach or a sandbar if there's a strong current and you have other boats moored up to the beach.
First thing we need to determine is which way the wind and current are going. Take a look at the other boats that are anchored up and see which way they're pulling on their lines. Your anchor line is going to do the same thing. Then decide where it is you're going to anchor up. We chose to anchor up in between these 2 boats here.
We've got about 60 feet in between both vessels, and the first thing we need to do is throw our front anchor pretty close to the upstream boat. Now we want to let out about 30 feet of line here so that when we stop, we'll be halfway in between both boats.
Once the front anchor is grabbed and tied off securely, take your engines, turn them upstream as well, and put them in reverse. Give them a little bit of throttle, then throw your back anchor. Toss it upstream as far as you can off the stern of the boat. You then can adjust this anchor tighter or looser to keep yourself centered in between the other vessels.
Remember, boating's easy and it's fun because you can do it. Good job, Nick.
This operational technique has been brought to you by Birdsall Marine, a new wave of protection formulated to protect your boat's engine and your engine warranty.
The next thing we want to show you is how to dress up the look of your boat by adding a custom aluminum bow rail.
There are several options here. The first would be to go to a marine surplus store and see if they have any fabricated bow rails that you could just bolt onto your boat and hopefully it's going to fit. Or there's some aftermarket companies out there. One in particular is Taco, and they make all the components necessary for the do-it-yourselfer to build his own relatively simple bow rail.
Not too bad.
Or you have a case like ours where it would be virtually impossible for the do-it-yourselfer to put on a bow rail due to the tight radius that we have on our bow pulpit. So we decided to have the guys at Birdsall Marine Design, located in West Palm Beach, Florida, weld up a custom aluminum bow rail for us.
The first thing we needed to determine was the height of the rail. That ranges normally between 17 and 22 inches, depending on the line of sight from the helm. We chose a 19-inch height. The next thing we did was cut the material to length with the use of a chop saw. Then we made a template of the bow of the boat, including the pulpit, and rolled our front piece. We used the first stanchion as a place to join our bow piece with the side rails. Then we welded all of the stanchions to the flanges and installed them on the boat. We followed the contour of the boat and bent the two side rails with a hip bender and tacked them to the stanchions. The final welds were made on the bench and painted.
Typically, the guys at Birdsall build some of the best T-tops and rocket launchers out on the market. So when they came to us and said that they'd help us on our custom aluminum bow rail, we were delighted. Now, the first thing we need to do is mark out all of our holes for the flanges or the feet of the bow rail. Next, we need to drill the holes using a cordless drill and a 1/4-inch bit. We're then going to through bolt the flanges to the cap of the boat using number 10 oval head stainless steel machine screws with fender washers and lock nuts. Since this is considered a permanent installation, we chose a good polyurethane marine sealant to seal up all the holes, preventing water from ever permeating. Once all the feet were in place, our bow rail was locked in and very secure.
The tools needed for installing a bow rail are a cordless drill, a 1/4-inch drill bit, a number 2 Phillips bit, a caulking gun, and a 3/8-inch open-end wrench. This project revs up to 2,500 RPMs on the Ship-Shape TV degree of difficulty meter, meaning that with a little time and patience, most boaters can accomplish this task. Stay with us. When we come back, the guys are going to recap today's projects, and then we're going to take a peek into the Ship-Shape TV cool new product cooler. We'll be back in a flash.
Our marine sanitation system works great. Welcome back to the show. We showed you how to change out a battery today on Ship-Shape TV. Nick, give us a quick review.
Grab some of those ties you have in your kitchen junk drawer for your garbage bags or a tie wrap, tie the battery cables up before you remove them, change out the battery, then spray it down with a good corrosion inhibitor. Bam, sausage.
Real quick, how do we put in a marine sanitation system?
Order the video. Call us at Ship-Shape TV, area code 561-626-1439. Ask for show number 114.
Nick, how do we put on a bow rail?
Bow rail. Mark your holes, drill them, use a through bolt and a good polyurethane sealant. You're all set.
Good stuff, Nick. We've got a second left, and I want to show you a new product that's on the market coming out of the Ship-Shape TV cool new product cooler. What we're going to look at today is a product called Tefgel. And what Tefgel is it's a Teflon lubricant. Now, Nick, where around the boat would you use this stuff?
Anywhere where you would have dissimilar metals come in contact with each other. Maybe a stainless steel steering rod going through a tilt tube, or a power head or lower unit stud. What I like about it is it prevents galling and it stops the start of galvanic corrosion.
Suggested retail price is $10.95, and if you want to find out where it's available in your neighborhood, give us a call at Ship-Shape TV. We'll be glad to tell you. Now, every toolbox should have one of these tubes in it. We're about out of time, so until next week, guys, keep your boat ship-shape.